In the past, call centers were something that only large chains did, Domino's, Pizza Hut, whoever, big chains could do call centers, small chains could not. Over the last 4 years, I've had 4 or 5 chains talk to me seriously about doing call centers, and 2 or 3 of them did it. At the Pizza Expo this year in March, we had 10 chains approach us about doing call centers, and those ranged from 2 or 3 location chains to thousands of locations. Most of them, it was about $15 minimum wage, that they want to reduce the number of labor hours or transfer labor hours to lower labor cost states. Others, it was about just improving call handling, trying to increase the average ticket, all the other reasons to do it. We're here with Kevin Leidecker from NYPD Pizza, who is just about to pull the trigger on doing call center, but has been wanting to do this for a very long time. When did you first decide you wanted to do call center?
About 5 years ago is when I first put the idea together that this was the direction we wanted to go. And the amount of technology and the amount of software that existed 5 years ago wasn't ready for somebody my size. But finally, at this point, technology is a great equalizer, and I can compete with 3 and make it effective and provide a better experience for my customers and make me more money.
So from your perspective, is it about saving money or just a better experience, increasing average ticket, a combination of all the factors?
It's literally everything. Somebody sitting down taking a phone order is going to have a higher ticket average, and they're also more trained, know all my coupons, all my specials.
And they're not distracted. They're not making product and serving over the counter and answering the phones at the same time.
That comes in on Friday night and grabs a phone call, we appreciate it. He does a good job, and I want him to do it if they can, but he doesn't know all the specials. He doesn't know how to handle the customers as good as somebody that does it on a day in, day out basis. Labor-wise, a distributed call center gives me the ability to spread out my calling over 3 stores, and I'm expecting to be able to save a little bit of money just in labor. The thing that I'm most excited about is that I get to preserve my small mom and pop feel, because all of our customers that have called, we've got 3 locations right now, we're getting ready to open our fourth location, and strategy-wise right now, everything that we are doing is getting us in the direction for rapid growth in the future. I don't want to stay at 3 stores, I don't want to stay at 4 stores. I would like to go to 5 to 10, and by simplifying the business and getting all of our ordering in place that is integrated in such a way with technology and our staff that it's easy to grow. If I have a solution for 4 stores, adding that 5th store to answer the phone calls, it's easy. And technology is the thing that is going to make that possible.
There's 3 kinds of call centers in general. There's outsourced call centers where it would not be Kevin's staff doing it. You just outsource to an outside company. There's in-house call centers, which is what Kevin wants to do. He wants it to be his staff. He just wants it to be in a centralized location with people that's their job. The people that are really good at taking phone orders, that's what they're doing, and they're supervised for that, And then, of course, there's virtual call centers, as in the robot overlords are taking over and selling us pizza. Those are coming, like self-driving trucks. You just have to accept that they're going to be on the road with you at some point. In the past, when people went to call center, it was an all or nothing thing. You're either answering your calls in the stores or you're answering the calls in the call center. And for somebody your size, that means that you're trading one staffing problem for a different staffing problem, because the traffic is so peaky. So Friday, 5 p.m., it's really difficult to staff the call center to take that kind of peak traffic, especially where it can vary so much week to week. Game Saturday, game Friday, you get hammered. So what we're doing is, because again, we're an IP phone company, Kevin's stores are already on our phone service. So the calls come into Kevin's virtual phone system, and it looks at all the normal conditions. Is it a holiday? No. Are you open? Yes. Then it looks at the call center. Is there someone available in the call center to take the call right now? If yes, they get the call. If not, we can ring it back to the store. So we can let the system make a very intelligent decision about where it's sending the call to get that call answered as quickly as possible. We could be ringing phones at the same time in the store and the call center. I have found that to be a bad idea because it trains both of them to not answer the call.
Right.
So we want it to be that 80%, 85, 90% of the calls are being answered in the call center, but you're down 2 people because some people are out sick or traffic is a little bit heavy and wait times are getting long in the call center. Some of the calls start overflowing to the store, and so you tell the people in the store, when that phone rings, answer it because it's an overflow. That means everyone in the call center is busy. And what that lets us do is get the lowest possible labor cost, highest labor efficiency in the call center. Now again, what Kevin is doing, it's all about improving call handling, higher ticket, better customer service. What some other people are doing, we've got 6 or 7 chains that are in Seattle, Portland, San Francisco. They're already paying $15 an hour or more. Some of them, they said it's not $15 minimum wage yet, but to get anybody, they're paying $16 or more. And their words, the people they're getting are, well, okay, I'm not gonna say what I was gonna say. The people that they're getting are not worth $16 an hour. And they just don't wanna be paying someone to do a bad job of answering the phone for $16 an hour. So they wanna do a call center. They still want it to be their staff. They wanna be employing people, but they wanna do it in a state where they can get good, motivated people at $10 an hour. Plus, as you get your volume up, as you go to 4, 5 stores, you're right in that range there where you start getting a great economy of scale. Let's say that right now in your 3 stores, or let's say you had 5 stores and you're answering in the stores. Let's say that during your busy hours, you have 2 people answering the phone, so 10 people across 5 stores. In the call center, you're gonna need somewhere between 50 and 70% the number of labor hours. So you would have 5 to 7 people handling that same traffic. And once you're up to even more, if you were at 10 stores, 20 stores, those numbers get really firm up at about a 50% reduction in labor hours, even if you're not getting a labor cost per hour benefit because it's just in your same area. So you save, you can save half on the number of labor hours while greatly improving call handling because you're averaging out all the peaks. This store, you know how it is, you stand in the store, there's no calls for 10 minutes, then 4 people call at the same time. You have 5 stores, 10 stores, all of that starts evening out.
Right.
And now you've got a nice steady call flow. Agents are always busy. In an ideal world, a call comes in just as an agent hangs up from one call. So no agents are sitting there waiting for calls, but no callers ever wait more than 1 ring or 2 rings to be answered. And of course, while the customer is waiting, they don't have to just be hearing a ringing phone. They can be listening to hold music and message loop. The system can react to current conditions to say, thank you for calling. Due to current heavy call volume, wait times are a little longer than usual. Please stay on the line. We appreciate your patience. If you pre-warn the customer they may have a 2-minute wait, they're not upset.
In the very beginning, the thing that I was really focused on is going towards a 1 number. I'm in a Cincinnati market. My competition has a 1 number system and they pioneered it. And it was just something that I really wanted. I didn't really understand all the nuances of going with a 1 number system. And the more and more that I've talked to John and listened to other people and realized that by going to a 1 number system that I eliminated every brand loyalty that I've built up over 30 years of business to that number that I've already put into every customer's phone and mindset. The other thing that happens is that the call center has to be open the hours that whatever location I have 3 locations now, we're getting ready to go to number 4, but they all don't have the same hours. One's open during lunchtime, one's open later at night. And with a traditional call center, I have to keep the call center effective. And at that point, any labor savings I'm losing if that call center is only answering phone calls for 1 call. But by the distributed version that John's talking about, what it does is has me the ability at 10 o'clock when my volume's down to nothing, I can start reverting the phone calls back to the original store And then the customer that's calling, location A that's closed is getting a closed message, and that way I don't have somebody answering phones go, I'm sorry, this store is closed, this store is closed, this store is closed.
Right.
And that's the thing we're most effective. And at the same time, in some small way, I get to preserve my small mom and pop feeling that, hey, I'm calling, one of our stores is on a street called Chase. It's our most popular store, but that way they're calling the Chase number. And in their mind, the customer calling, they're calling the Chase store just like they have for the last 30 years.
Yeah. I forgot to mention that earlier, that, as the system is making that decision about where it's sending the call, that's an automatic process, So again, the call comes in on store number one's virtual phone system, and it goes, are you open? Yes, because if you're closed, it's going to play the I'm sorry, we're closed message. If you're open, it looks at the call center, and you might decide that after 11 p.m. you just don't staff the call center.
Right.
And so it looks at, there's nobody there, I'm going to ring it to the store that the customer called. That's the big thing you lose with one number system, is the call has to go to the call center because the system doesn't know where else to send it. Whereas if you're using the number people have been calling for 30 years, it's the same number. We can ring it to the call center, we can ring it to the store, whatever makes sense. We also have a very tight, direct linking between the phones in the two places. So customer says, I want to talk to the manager. Agent can press a button, and that call is now on hold on the phones in the store. And like hold button 1 is blinking on all the phones. Press another button, you're talking to the store. Customer that's on hold 1 wants to talk to the manager. This is a situation. So instead of putting the caller on hold, calling the store, then conferencing them in, you just push the call, it's on hold at the store. So, because it's one phone system.
We've been with PizzaCloud now for about 3 years, and one of the features, one of the most successful features that we have is the ability, when a customer calls in, they're getting an upsell message, and a lot of systems do that. Just about all the systems do that. But one thing that's really unique to PizzaCloud is they have the ability to rotate that. So I can put up 3 different messages, and the customer, as they call throughout the entire month, they're not getting blasted. Hopefully, statistically, they're not getting blasted with the same message every time they call. And I think our upsell, just on keeping that fresh and keeping it rotating, basically pays for my phone system. The cool thing about the distributed call center is it preserves my ability to market to specific locations. So where if I go with a one number system, I have to do a global if I want to do a 12-inch pizza for this price, I have to do that chain wide. Where by keeping the localization in place, it gives me the ability to say, this store could use a little bit of help on Monday, but this store's killing it on Monday. I want to do a deal here, not so much here. The first iteration that we had no backup plan. So we had a cable modem, and nobody ever thought about a cable modem. In business, if your internet went out, it wasn't the end of the world. Suddenly when your internet goes out, I have no phones, I have no online ordering, I can't even run a credit card. I'm basically dead in the water. I have electric, and it's worthless without the internet. So in the early days, the first time that happened, now we've installed fiber and a cable modem, which gets pretty doggone expensive, and I have to have that in each location. And even that doesn't guarantee me 100% redundancy, because if I have a power outage, I've lost. A lot of times the utility companies run things on the same pole. So you think you've got redundancy, but this node goes down and you find out that I have zero. But one of the things that I found, the first thing I was like, I didn't realize this existed, is I had a cellular backup. So like literally right now, somebody could, I don't want this to happen, but somebody could lose control of their car, take out the telephone pole in front of my place, and I'm still open. As long as I got electric, I'm fine.
Yeah, I mentioned that part of what we put in is cellular backup internet. So we put in an additional router that has a cellular data modem in it. There's a few other phone companies that do that. Some of them copied us, some just started doing it. But almost everybody else, they only protect the phones that they put in. We go through sometimes excruciating pain to work with the POS company and get our cellular backup router put in between the internet modem and the firewall for the POS system. So the phones are connected to our router, and it's protecting them, but we're also protecting the POS system. So when the internet goes down, phones, web ordering, credit card processing all stay up. Most of the POS companies have really embraced this with us. There's probably 15 POS companies that now are regular referring customers to us, because anybody who's having trouble with their phones or trouble with their internet, they connect them with us because we solve both problems. And we eliminate problems for the POS companies, because you know how it used to be. You don't realize your internet went down, you notice that your credit cards aren't working,
Exactly.
or you're not getting web orders. So you call the POS company and say, hey, there's something wrong, my credit cards aren't working. And they go, it looks like your internet's down. So then you go reset the cable modem and it comes back up, but you wasted 20 minutes on hold with the POS company. We just eliminate those issues. Everything just stays up. And we really work hard to assist our customers in getting the maximum benefit from the system. You know, there's a lot of IP phone companies out there. There's actually about 5,000 IP phone companies out there. And you've used a few others, and you know that in general, they go, okay, your phones are working, have a nice day. You know, if you can call the number and the phones ring, they're done. We go, you can have as many start of call upsell messages as you want, and the system will pick one at random. Please let us turn that on for you, and we'll do it for you. So Kevin has full access. He can do any changes he wants. He can manage stuff himself, but he can call us 24/7. And I mean, somebody answers. It's not voicemail after hours. There's no after hours. You know, the phone companies where the tech support number goes to voicemail after 5 p.m. Eastern should not be serving your industry, because
Yeah, we're a nighttime business. My business is your off-peak.
right. So we actually staff our tech support people are heaviest in the evening, especially Friday evening. And of course, the other thing is we have common sense. We don't do anything to the phone system on Friday or Saturday. You know, installs are Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We try to do them in the morning. You know, you work with any regular phone company and they'll say, okay, we'll do that installation 5 p.m. on Friday. And you're like, no. So, you know, we understand. And the reason that I can do the things with the call center that other people, I won't say that they can't do, they don't think of trying to do, is I came out of the call center industry. I used to build call centers, up to 1,000-seat call centers for huge companies, tech support, customer service. You know, some companies you would recognize, some you wouldn't. You know, the phone systems I used to put in the late 90s cost $3,000 a seat. And the system that I have today runs circles around those phone systems. And we control the code in our phone system, so we can customize it. There have been a few times, I think you made some suggestions, asked me to make some changes, and a couple of weeks later, oh, take a look.
There's one feature that we needed is we like our stores to open and close based on time. And basically, we kill the ringing in the store so my guys can concentrate on getting out of there. But I also need an ability for one store to call another. So basically, I'm going to call it really complex routing. I'm sure he'll have a whole nother word for it. But one of my managers at this location can call this store, and it skips the, hey, I'm sorry, we're closed, and hangs up on you message, but it rings through the store. So basically, I've got like a backdoor tunnel into all three of our stores. Another feature is the integration with the software that we use is
POS system. So
the best that I've ever seen.
So we worked with CallerID.com back 4.5 years ago. That's right when they were trying to bring the Vertex VoIP Caller ID box to market. And they were kind of delayed on it because they didn't understand VoIP. They'd been doing analog lines forever. So I helped kind of educate them on VoIP. I sent them phones and set up a switch for them. And I installed the very first Vertex in the country when it was still in beta. But then a little bit after that, I wrote code in our phone system so we can deliver the same caller ID that the Vertex box is. Now, we still install Vertex boxes. Some POS systems, we have to use that because of the way it works, like if you need it from a serial cable or a variety of other reasons. But about half of our customers, we deliver it directly. Some of the POS companies have really embraced us on that because we can deliver more information than you get from the box. Like, how long did the call wait in queue? When we do the call center, I'll be delivering to the POS system the store that was called, the normal information, caller ID, name and number, and the extension that I'm ringing the call to. So as the agent is answering that call, the POS station in front of them is popping to the right store and the right customer on that store. And that's a really critical thing. That's something we haven't talked about, but you cannot do a call center if your POS system doesn't support it in some way. There are some ways around that. There's a company with kind of a generic cloud-based POS system meant for call centers that can integrate with POS systems that have an open API, but and it works pretty well. But nothing is going to be as efficient, as fast, as doing exactly what you want it to do as your POS system that you've spent years tuning to be exactly what you want.
And that my employees that I already have now already know how to use it.
Right, and it's got your routing and the drivers and your zone and all of those things already in it. So what you really want, particularly where it's an in-house call center for yourself. Now, if it's an outsourced call center, they use the more generic one. These are your people in your building. They should be using the same POS system. And so the POS system has to be able to support it, which your POS company does.
Right.
I tell you, until you have the cellular backup and get the alerts from it, you have no idea how frequently the internet goes down. Really? Because 10 times, 20 times a day sometimes, it goes down for 2 minutes and comes back up. And you don't notice it when you're in the store because you try a credit card, didn't work. Try it again, it goes through. Well, maybe that's because the internet was down for 45 seconds. And this starts getting into a little bit more complicated things, but we use cellular backup routers from a company called PepLink. And the specific router we use are PEP Waves, which were originally designed, I believe, to go in police cars, which is that's a little trivia question for you. Yeah. Most people that do cellular backup, the cellular is kind of in a cold standby state, right? So your primary internet goes down, your phones go offline, your web orders and everything are down, the cellular comes up, it gets an IP address, the POS system reconnects, the phones re-register, might take 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, everything's back up. Then your internet comes back up, your primary internet comes back up, and everything goes offline again. And has to reconnect because it's changing network connections from one to the other. Particularly the phones get knocked off for 4 or 5 minutes. Usually the POS system recovers in a couple of seconds. What we do is we have the cellular up and of course the primary internet is up. And this router is a cellular backup router as well. This router is a VPN router as well as a cellular backup router. So it's got a virtual private network to 2 of our 6 data centers for each customer. In your case, I think you are primary on our Columbus data center, failover to our Trenton, Tennessee data center. So what the router does is it has the routes established both ways, over the primary internet and over the cellular. And it's watching both of them. It's just sending all the data over the primary internet. If your internet goes down or just gets congested or starts having packet loss, if it just goes bad but isn't actually down, it snaps the traffic over to the cellular path so quickly you don't even drop calls in progress. You've probably seen that. You could walk up and unplug the cable from your Comcast modem while people are on the phone and they don't drop the calls. We're pretty much the only phone company where that's the case. Have you?
Yeah, the first time my dad came in the store, my dad's ultimately the bean counter. I love the guy to death, but he does not embrace technology the way I do. And explaining to him why I broke a contract with our local fiber provider, and I had my dad, he's calling his grandma, she's 90. I've got him on the phone, and I said, watch this. I walked over and I unplugged the cable modem. And the phone, there's a slight microsecond of a pause, and then it's right back to normal. But you don't lose the phone call, so it's completely transparent to the other person on the other end. And I said, that's why.
And if you've ever had one of those days where your internet is being a yo-yo,
Yeah.
and just goes up and down every 20 minutes.
Every kid is off of school for the day. The internet gets flaky. Or when Apple comes out with a new iOS update, and 7 million devices are all downloading it.
Yeah, because again, it's the normal cellular backup. The WAN has to fail before it goes to cellular. With ours, if it just gets congested, packet loss, or complete failure, it snaps it over to the other path. And there are other advantages as well, but that's kind of the key thing. And when we switched to using that feature, the number of support calls that we would get probably dropped by 60%. Because what we used to have a lot of, before we started doing that, we would get people that would call and say, hey, my phones are working, but they don't sound good. And because your internet had dropped to, it's like a dial-up modem speed, So it's not down, but it's crap. It's just unusable, And so we switched to doing it the way we're doing it, and you don't even notice. In fact, we'll call you and say, hey, your internet is down at this store, because they don't even notice their internet's down because everything's working.
We actually had that happen. Justin called me one day. My guys decided to clean up some cables underneath the counter and had inadvertently unplugged the Ethernet cable out of the back of my cable modem. So although this thing's sitting there doing its job, it's not connected. And all of a sudden I get a phone call from Justin, which is our support guy from PizzaCloud. He says, Kevin, is your guys' internet down? And I said, not that I know of. That is one side effect of the PEP wave, is that you don't ever even notice that your internet's down. Like, I don't know for sure if it had been an hour, a day, or a month, but we get a phone call and I'm looking under there going, oh. And I hated telling him that, but I was like, yeah, I think I just unplugged it and restarted it. It worked just fine.
The only one that people should be ashamed of, and this happens far too frequently, is someone will have something go down and we'll go, boy, it looks like that network switch is powered off or just gone. Can you go follow it and make sure that it's plugged in? And you'll hear somebody go, whose cell phone charger is this?
That is a side effect of everything going to to USB charging now. Like, you see all the new little network devices, like hard drives and that are running on that. It's really tempting to be like, oh, they can do without this for a while. Plug in your cell phone. And the cool thing about VoIP, and this is kind of generic, I think this applies to everybody, but so traditional analog phones, I had to have a dedicated phone line for in. So like my busiest store, we had 6 phone lines. The 7th caller got a busy signal. With VoIP, I can scale, I don't even know what my ultimate capacity is now. I know it's more than my store can handle. If everybody in the world tried to call my store, I think it would stop.
We give you 10 phone lines as part of the standard practice. Standard package includes 10 phone lines. But we don't actually have it set to play a busy signal beyond that. We just get notifications. So if you were getting that kind of traffic, we would call and say, maybe we need to bump you to a few more lines, and we would charge you a little bit more. But you'd probably be happy with that because you'd have tripled your business. Yeah.
But yeah, the day I realized that I wasn't locked into hard, this customer 7's getting a busy signal, that was great. The second one is, and this is because of his ability to work with POS providers, the integration that we have with our POS system, and this is the best implementation that I've ever seen. When a customer calls, in the old days, it had my previous VoIP providers, you had to actually convert the digital signal to an analog signal and then feed that back into the machine. It was like going from a Porsche to a horse and buggy back to a Porsche. It was the most convoluted way to do it. But now I pick up the phone, the computer just automatically grabs the customer's information. I don't even have to touch the computer. I know, as soon as I pick up the phone, I know I'm talking to John. And it's great. It's been a game changer. It speeds up every single phone call. The other thing that doesn't happen is the odds of ever getting the wrong phone number, unless you own a pizza store or run a pizza store, you can't understand this, but every person that owns a pizza store, you get phone calls coming in so fast, next thing you know, you're standing on this street with this ticket and this address, but then realize that you have the phone number somehow that's been so disassociated from that to the wrong ticket. And customers don't understand it, because when I call the customer, he did order. And I'm like, I'm on Cherry Street. And he's like, well, I'm on Bruce, and I don't understand.
Do you listen to the call recordings very much?
All the time. Me and my brother on a weekly basis sit down, and so we randomly will listen to 2 to 3 phone calls from all 7 days that we're open. It's not the biggest sample in the world, but it does keep us or the ability where we are listening to staff. Because when you train your phone people, there's this thing that you want to happen, there's this thing that's happening, and there's this thing that you hope that isn't happening. And you want to have some, hopefully you're at least hitting the middle spot.
We don't nickel and dime our customers, okay? So the phone service we're providing includes all the features that they could need. So the random starter call upsell messages, call queuing, auto answering, call recording. So unless the customer does not want calls recorded, all the calls are recorded. We keep them for about 30 days. We do inbound and outbound calls, but yeah, all calls are recorded. So you can go back and search for a specific call by the caller ID, name or number, date and time, the phone it was answered at, whatever you want. And when you find the call, you can just play it back. You can download the WAV file, so if it's a particularly good or bad call, you can save it. And of course, you can listen to random calls for quality assurance. You don't have to be at the store, it's browser-based, you can do it from anywhere. Now, here's something that you'll be very happy with. I'm working on artificial intelligence PCI data redaction from the recorded calls. In other words, computer system is going to be listening to the recordings, and when it hits like the card holder information, blank it out. So those will no longer be in the recordings.
So, for instance, just this last Friday, we actually had a robbery. It was a young kid placed an order. And being able to handle the detective a WAV file of the phone call coming in, it's great. In court, that's awesome. The other thing that happens is, let's say you have a customer, they call up and they call back and say, hey, I didn't order this. It's nice to be able to go back. I usually don't do it in the middle of a rush. It's usually faster just to fix the problem, because even if the customer is wrong, I don't want to lose the customer. But one thing that happened is we had hired a new phone girl, and she was doing really good, but we have two different sandwiches that got unique names. And we had a lot of replacements. And at the end of the night, I started listening to these phone calls. I realized the girl taking the phone didn't know which sandwich was which. So customer was ordering this sandwich, but she was sending them this. And they're very similar sandwiches, but they're different. And so that was like an instant, I don't know how many days it would have taken me to catch on to that, because you're not in the store, you're not watching all the time, mistakes happen, and you don't glue yourself, but be able to listen and go. And the downside is you do find yourself scratching your head a little bit with your staff. You're going, oh, great.
Yeah. And of course, there's what your people do or how they do it 2 p.m. on Tuesday and how they do it 5 p.m. on Friday. One of the suggestions that I always make is when you get some recordings where the staff member they're not following the procedure they're supposed to. They're not thanking the customer for the order. They're not verifying delivery address if it's a new address or asking for the upsell. Instead of you just telling the customer, oh, you did these 3 things wrong, download the WAV file, email it to the employee, and say, go ahead and score yourself on this.
Right.
And you give them a scoring sheet that's got what they're supposed to be doing, and they'll come back and they'll be as critical or more critical on themselves than you would be, but it takes any of that kind of animosity out of the conversation. And a lot of times people come back and go, especially like if it's the 5 p.m. rush, and the issue is that they're really rushing the customer to get off the phone because they got people in line, more lines are ringing, and they'll go, well, I sounded kind of rude on that call.
It's a great training.
Yeah.
When you can train somebody with their own example, it's very powerful.
And for new people, go listen to 50 calls. All of these things that we just naturally talk about, the problems answering the phones in the store are what the call center is to resolve. The people in the call center operate more efficiently. They have headsets on, so they have both hands free. They don't have a blast furnace running 5 feet behind them. They can hear, the customer can hear them better. I mean, the phones are great, the phones are very high quality, but if it's a really, really noisy store, it's a really, really noisy store.
A great analog of this example would be as if we were doing this interview right now in my kitchen. It would be an entirely different interview, but because we're sitting down, we're relaxed, it's the same experience we'd be providing my customers, is that it's a relaxed environment that I can control.
So and they're not being interrupted. Remember that the people in the call center, they don't see a whole bunch of ringing lines. The system is going, oh, you're available, here's a call. Oh, you're available, here's a call. So, if they're properly trained and supervised, they handle the customer they're talking to completion, then the system gives them another call. So you get happier customers, higher tickets, so you get happier owners, probably more orders, particularly stores. I mean, you do a good job of answering your phones now. You really do. You have very few lost calls.
Right.
We have customers who, on a busy Friday, they lose 30% of their calls. I mean, seriously. And I'll tell them, you got 400 calls and you lost 120 of them where people waited. Some of them waited 6-7 minutes.
You didn't lose them. You gave them to your competition.
Yeah.
They hung up with you and they called me.
Right. And so we've had customers go to a call center or some other solution like that and have a huge increase in revenue, $5,000 a month, $8,000 a month, because they were doing just a terrible job answering the phones in the stores. You're not going to get that kind of benefit because your people are good, but you want to get the efficiency and so on. And this is, we don't want to make it sound like this is some huge install. You have some space in one of your stores.
Our newest location it's bigger, and basically we're devoting we're sectioned off a room, and so during call center hours we're going to have a room. It's it closes off. It's still attached to the kitchen. Like you could see the kitchen if you wanted to, but it's isolated. And basically we're putting 4 or 5 stations in there that can absorb our call center. So yeah, it's not the other issue that we always had with the one number system is basically I had to have enough business to justify a make-believe location to do this, and this is in the store. It's
so it's no extra space, no extra lease, probably no extra management. It's just you're going to shift some labor hours in there. Maybe you end up saving on labor hours. Maybe you don't.
I think at 4 stores we'll see a small savings, but I think our quality and our upsell is going to go up drastically. But as we grow, I think it's going to be easier to open the 4th and 5th store with a call center. Mm-hmm. And I think at 5, maybe 6 stores, at that point I'll really start to absorb a savings. So with PizzaCloud, on the inbound phone call, we have the ability to play a promo message. We call it a promo. And traditionally in the old system, we would record one, and about every 6 months we would change it. And so for 6 months, every time you called me, you heard about the cookie. First time you ordered the cookie, you loved it, but at the end of 6 months, you're probably tired of hearing about my cookie. So we have the ability to rotate it on the inbound call. But the cool thing is, in the call center, my phone person, because they're not worried about what pizza's going into the oven, they're not worried about the guy standing at the front counter, they're not worried about what that driver's doing. Their sole purpose is glued to a screen and glued to a phone. And the nice thing is because the phones, they're not ringing nonstop. So this person's 100% attention is on this phone call, this customer, and this experience. And as soon as they hang up, it switches to a new customer, to a new experience. But in the store, it can get overwhelming sometimes when the phones are just ringing nonstop.
It's stressful.
You got people pacing, or if you're just not in a great mood, it can get a little. It's hard. I can do it. I own the place. I got a vested interest, but the person I got working for me on a Friday night who just got into a fight with his girlfriend before he came to work, or it's hard. But in the call center, I'm thinking it's going to be an experience that's a lot better. It's just going to be better for the employee, better for the business owner, better for the customer. And I have literally racked my brain on thinking of negatives, and I'm up to none so far. If you have a good relationship with technology, you have a good relationship with your POS provider and your telephone provider, you can monitor your business pretty well from almost anywhere on the planet. I mean, you do need, I'm not going to sit here and say you don't ever have to go to work, but if you marry yourself to the business, you're never going to have a life outside of there. Ultimately, you're going to be miserable, and your business, in the beginning, your business will get better. That's the crux here. Is you put 100% into your business, it does get better. But as you start to burn out, all of a sudden there's this thing that happens where your business starts burning out too, and you compensate by working even harder, and you just keep digging yourself further and further. With technology, you're able to step out of the store and enjoy life just a little bit.
In the past year, how many vacations have you taken?
I go on a trip once a month. My passion, I like to work 35, 45 hours a week. I don't take a day off, and then 4 or 5 days I'll take off, jump on an airplane, and go. But the cool thing is with my cell phone, my laptop, I am 70% still effective.
I used to be a server and also worked at the front counter. And I'll tell you what, the call center relieves a lot of the pressure off the front counter person. We have to deal with the customers in front of us, we have to deal with the kitchen. Not having to answer the phone really does take one of those pressures off from us. And we can, the call center can just concentrate on these customers, on these phone calls. And I love my job. I love my job.
Order your PizzaCloud today. Visit our website, www.pizzacloud.net, for more details.